So good morning. I'm gonna flip this around, guys. I never feel comfortable with my image here, so hold on. So I wanted to share with you guys what I first remember from my childhood. I wish my dad would have got a chance to do this. Um, so my first memory as a child was being in the house with my mom, Grandma Gill, and being okay with everything, and then noticing that she was not there. That was the first moment that I believe I ever felt lonely and scared that she wasn't coming back. Um, have y'all ever felt that way? I mean, it um, the first moments. I mean, I must have been like maybe 3 or 4. It's kind of weird, right? And then I remember going for rides in the car with Grandma Gill, Grandpa Gill, and we would just take a drive. And on Sundays, I believe, we would go to my grandmother's houses and we would visit. And Grandpa Gill worked. First job I remember him working was at a nice house. It was kind of like a drive-through little bar sort of thing, and also he worked at a middle school that is now Hot Wheels Academy as a janitor. And eventually, my dad, Grandpa Gill, got promoted, and he became in charge of a whole school and was able to leave that job. Grandma Gill used to drive an old 1964 Impala. Grandpa Gill had a 1956 Chevy Bel Air hardtop, and those were the cars I remember. And then they got rid of the Impala, and we got a pickup truck. And sometime around there, we also they bought what was a 1971 Dodge Dart 4 door. The pickup truck was orange and white. And Nancy had just learned how to drive not too long before that, and um, I believe she was uh, in an accident in that truck. And it's kind of weird thing, that truck was built like a tank, and um, she was all right, but the truck wasn't. So it wasn't too long after that I believe things would just never got better with that vehicle, and they got rid of it. And Grandpa Gill went and was able to, after a period of time, get another truck. Things are a lot different. Credit cards were not freely available. Like, they kind of hand them out like candy nowadays. Um, they were locked away. I think they had one card, and it was very hard to get. Cars did not cost $20,000. Uh, for about $4,000, you were able to get a fairly new car, maybe 10 years old. Some places you might still be able to do that. And I remember when Grandpa Gill would get home from work, he did smoke. And here's a funny thing. I mean, I always thought it was pretty neat that I would get to go grab his cigarettes. And this was a different culture back then. And I would ask Dad, could I light your cigarette? And it was funny watching this kid puffing on a cigarette to light it. And I would hand it to him, and he would thank me. And the funny thing about our my dad was, every morning his ritual was to wake up, uh, go to the kitchen. I slept where Grandma Gill sits a lot now. That was my room. And he would then go and he would shave, and he always had a little radio on and listening to uh, old music, easy listening music, listen to the news, and he would make breakfast. And early on, when I first started school, actually, I would wake up and my mom, Grandma Gill, we would sit at the table, kind of in a hurried fashion, and have some breakfast. And there was a lady that had a station wagon, and she would go around picking up kids in the neighborhood. And I remember her. I don't remember in which order I started riding with her. That was one memory. I also remember Grandma Gill driving me to school, and it was a school called Briscoe Elementary. Now it's Briscoe Academy, close to Grandma Gill's house. And I did not get to, and actually I did get to start walking to school when I was in fourth grade. And can y'all believe that? Can you imagine walking to school? I know things are different in the country, y'all, but you know, uh, that neighborhood. Now that I look back, it was kind of rough. Uh, it's a lot stranger now. Uh, you see, people don't own those homes in the neighborhood, so you got a lot of people that rent houses, and really not the best of people living in Grandma Gill's neighborhood anymore. They don't take care of their yards. Grandpa Gill used to have an immaculate yard. That was something that he enjoyed doing, and it was kind of like the pride of ownership. So I want you guys to uh, just keep in mind that someday you will have, hopefully you think that way, a place of your own. And you see all this stuff mom and I do to our property, as we try uh, to make it more of a home, and have a place to get away and enjoy sitting outside, enjoying the breeze and winding down. And we do all of that because it brings joy to be able to put our hands in the earth and get our hands dirty. And it's almost like the earth is part of us in the same fashion that God formed us from the earth, from the soil. Did you know that the word comes from the root word humus? Humus is soil, and man is derived from in God's image, to be man, created by God. So those are kind of the root words of that. And so my first teacher for kindergarten was Miss Sandifer. She was my kindergarten teacher. And it's funny because there are very few friends from kindergarten that I remember that have made it to the age of 53. It was weird because Grandpa Gill used to read the obituaries in the newspaper every morning. And I asked him, Dad, why do you read that? And he said because he found a lot of people that he knew when he was growing up in there almost weekly. And it was funny. Grandpa Gill did not graduate high school until he was 50 years old. He went back and got his GED because at the age of 16, he jumped on a train and hitchhiked also part of the way to California to go work and send money back home to your great grandma Gill. And it was there that he also joined the army. And Grandpa Gill was what was called a tanker. So he worked in a military tank with a crew of maybe three or two other people. That was his job. And something made him sick along the way during that time. And so his time in the army was not as long as my time in the Air Force. But somewhere around that time frame, he came back. And that is where he met Grandma Gill back in the neighborhood. Uh, and I guess that'll be another part of the story I'd tell y'all. But I remember, and this is going back to kindergarten, and this was when I was 5 years old. So I just want to share with y'all some of these things, and this is laying the groundwork for how I became who I am today, and hopefully give me some time to reflect and look in the review mirror to help me better understand who I'm still becoming, and knowing who I was. So, anyway, I hope you take some time to listen to this and get to understand your dad a little bit more. I love all of you. This is your dad, Carlos Gill. Today is 30 June 2022. Have a blessed day. I love you. Bye bye.